We appreciate your patience. If you're watching, we're still getting the word out that we're moving over here. We had some issues with the Facebook page of the school district not working here, and so we've moved it over to this. So we know the audio is not turned up yet, but we're just waiting for some people to join us and waiting for people to get that link on from the Facebook page over here to YouTube. We'll be starting here in just about a minute.
Make sure your mics are on. Okay, I'm going to call the Russellville School District Forum to order, board meeting. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Our Facebook channel was not working properly, but hopefully y'all have joined us on the Cyclone Booth YouTube channel. I would like to thank our communications coordinator, Ms. Rachel Jones, is here tonight. She will take your questions on the Facebook page where we have posted. And also I would like to thank the voice of the Russellville Cyclones, Mr. Mickey Duval. He, whenever you need Mickey Duval, he's there. And top-notch class guy. And so Mickey tonight is letting us use his Cyclone booth that he uses for play-by-play to get the information out this evening. I thank everyone for joining us, joined by our board, Mr. Al Harpino, our principal, Dr. Danny Brackett, our security personnel, Mr. Jeff Holt, and then of course our superintendent, Dr. Mark Gocher. I'm going to start us off here with a couple of minutes, speaking from the heart, and then we'll have other board members that'll share also. But I would like to welcome all of our teachers, staff, and students to our forum this evening. I thank y'all for joining us. I also want to thank our seniors. I know this is an important time for all of our seniors. And I want to thank our seniors and our parents, our staff, and our students for showing our board and our administration grace and mercy as we navigate through these uncharted waters. My 92-year-old grandpa right now is in the Russellville Nursing Center. And he is away from family and friends for his safety. And but he was part of what I call the greatest generation. And he was born in June of 1927. And when he was born during the Great Depression. When he was 7 years old, he lost his dad. When he was 17, he joined the United States Navy. My grandpa and that generation during that time faced a lot of uncertainty. But one thing my family learned through my grandpa was perseverance. You don't give up. And he taught his family that. And through his perseverance and him not giving up, our family came out much stronger. My pastor a few months ago preached a sermon and he penned these words. Have faith, endure, and work hard. And those words ring true today for our community. And if I could share a couple of verses tonight, during times of need and trouble, we can go to Scripture and to kind of guide our community, our district through this. But Nahum 1:7 says, "The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knows those who take refuge in Him." Psalm 105. For the Lord is good, his steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. So let's keep that in mind tonight as we go through these waters together and hopefully can answer your questions. And to our RSD community, remember, let's have faith, endure, and work hard. And right now, if we have any other board members that would like to share before we get going.
Chris, I'll say something. I've got to watch the last week, specifically with the Oakland Heights School District and what they're doing for food, and it's been a enlightening experience on how hard everybody's working, not just Oakland Heights, but everybody's doing it across the district. I know there's a lot of uncertainty. Hopefully we answer some of those questions tonight. I have 2 students in the Russellville School District, and they're both asking me daily if I know what's going on, and the fact of the matter is, I don't know that anybody here really knows what's going on and what's going to happen tomorrow, but we're making the best of a bad situation.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Gocher and team, the families of our community, and man, just Russellville being who we are and working together for good outcome. I hope tonight gives a lot of hope for parents and students. I know just seeing Coach Harpino over here makes me excited about days ahead, even though we may have some rough ones ahead. So thank you to the board for sacrificing tonight. And I don't know about you guys, but I do have a little anxiousness in my stomach, and you don't have to follow along. You can take it a moment of silence, but I'm just going to say a prayer over our meeting and our community and our district a little bit. So do you mind, President? Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for everyone that's just put time and effort into it. God, we just thank you that you've got a plan, you've got hope, and you have peace that passes all understanding. Let us, our spirits settle tonight and rest into a good work and a good discussion for the betterment of our students and families and faculty. We love you tonight in Jesus' name, amen.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll turn it over to Dr. Gocher.
Thank you, Mr. Cloud. First of all, I want to remind us of why we're here. This wonderful school board set goals for 2019 that are carrying on in this year of 2020. And we placed at the top of our goals a statement that says all goals will ensure student-focused decisions at a high level of expectations. And folks, I just want you to know as a community how proud I am of the many volunteers that have stepped up to serve, to get on buses daily and deliver meals. A special thanks to Eston Jones, our transportation director, and all the bus drivers that were willing to volunteer their time over spring break. And many of the faith-based community, the churches, that have stepped up, many teachers that are off contract are getting up every day to deliver meals. And you heard me say this in one of my videos earlier this week, that when Mr. Rogers, the famous Mr. Rogers neighborhood, when he was younger and he was watching TV and he saw the bad things that were happening in the news, he was reminded something that his mom said, and she said, whenever there are times of trouble, always look for the helpers. Keep your eyes on the helpers. And this Russellville community is demonstrating that. There's such an outpouring of volunteerism, a heart to serve our kids, a heart to serve our community. And I'm just so thankful to be a part of this community and to serve this district. We are truly in unprecedented times and uncharted waters, as Mr. Cloud said, and it's affecting us all. And I listen to our governor daily to get the latest update of what our state is experiencing. And while we have a little bit longer in our journey in this journey dealing with this terrible virus, I know that we're going to prevail. I know that our goals do not change. The board's goals do not change. And whether the kids are at home or at school, we're going to provide them the highest quality education that we can provide. And I just want to say how proud I am of this board and wanting to create a forum to allow us to answer some questions And Mr. Cloud, thank you for your leadership, and I'll hand it back to you, sir.
Okay, we'll get started. Right now, we have come up with some questions as a board, and at this time, I'll start with Mr. Wesley White.
A question comes up, and I think probably as we progress on into this pandemic and school dismissal, and I think my question is more relevant to our classified staff. Of course, you know, our teachers are still actively involved in providing instruction from home. We still have some people manning buildings. We still have some people taking care of our buildings, but many of our employees, particularly classified employees, are idled. I think the question I would have is, will we continue to pay all employees if school dismissal continues, and even though some of them are now unable to do their work?
It's a great question, and I've been asked that a few times, Mr. White, since the extended school closures have occurred. And I've assured our staff that we will continue to pay them, that their contract is sound with the Russellville School District, but specifically in the guidance that's been given to us by the Division of Elementary Secondary Ed is that there's maximum flexibility that we are to exercise. No one's expected to lay people off during this time. However, it does say in the guidance, classified staff may be needed to assist with meal delivery or assist with AMI packets, and individuals should adhere to the Arkansas Department of Health's recommendations for social distancing and group size limitations. So while we've had some churches that have stepped up and we've had some teachers step up, I'll be working with Dr. Brackett and Justin Robertson and creating a little more purposeful duties for those classified aides. Something else that came out from the Department of Health, the idea that if the situation arises that our classified staff could be directed to assist with daycare for our healthcare providers. It's very possible that our healthcare providers, from the doctors, the nurses, the custodians, the maintenance crew, could see a real burden in their hours at our local medical facilities, and childcare may be an issue. And so I'll ask our classified staff that are able to, will adhere to all the safety protocols that we know how to do, but I know that we'll have those that will step up to watch the children of our healthcare facilities. So yes, we're going to find more purposeful things for them to do, and that is something that we'll be working on next week as well. So great question, but I wanted our staff to know that we will continue to pay them. Thank you.
Mr. Keister?
So each morning about 9:45, I go to my glass door at my office and I look out, and here comes Russell School District bus down the road. And yesterday morning I was out, it was cloudy, and this one of our employees hopped off the bus fully masked and covered, or protected, and she hopped off, runs to the door, knocks, and nobody came to the door. And all of a sudden you got to sense this tension of, do I stay, do I go? Do I stay, do I go? And it went on for seemed like minutes. And I sat there and I thought, I wonder what she's going to do. I wonder what she's going to do. And this lady, she hung in there. She knocked one more time and she said, hold on, somebody's coming. And I didn't have my video on, but this little boy, could probably come up a little above my knee, comes to the door and opens the door and says, thank you. And she just loads this little boy down with the food. And it meant a lot, and I know we can get caught up in a lot, but Dr. Gocher, I think I know your heart in this, but for our people to hear, how long will we continue to feed the children of Russell School District?
Thank you for that story. It touches my heart. I've heard similar stories of how children are so thankful and passing their thanks all the way to my office, and I appreciate it. But we will deliver the food as long as we can. We receive our guidance from the Child Nutrition Unit from the Division of Elementary Secondary Ed. I completed a survey today. The USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, has lifted a lot of the regulations to allow for students to continue being fed across this nation. And so I do want to thank Senator Breanne Davis for bringing this idea to us a couple of weeks ago. And she had heard from another state that had already experienced more adverse effects of the virus, how they were using the bus stops as the point of delivery for food. And so now we're seeing, as it evolves, the bus stops will be the point of delivery for meals. It'll also be the point of delivery for delivering their AMI packets or their devices. Kids that don't have internet, we've got ideas of sending home flash drives, USB drives, where they can upload their information. And so the food will continue and the education will continue. Thank you.
All right, next question I believe you've already answered, but just to clarify, I'm very interested in frontline workers and taking care of their needs as well as the patients they are serving. We will open our school up per guidelines to offer a daycare if need be for those folks.
Yes, those are my plans. I've already reached out to the leadership at St. Mary's, and while they hope they never have to, they were very thankful that we offered that. And while we may be down the road before that is needed, we're already going to look for a plan of how that might work, keeping our kids safe, exercising all the safety and medical protocols as I mentioned earlier. But yes, that is from the Department of Health, and I plan to comply to their directive.
Thank you for you and your team.
Thank you.
Real quick to add on to that, have we looked into if it gets to a possibility, which I hope it doesn't, but maybe treatments being received at our buildings and facilities in case there's overflow at the medical facilities?
That's a great question. I have not asked that, but I would assume, as it's been seen in other communities, while we have one triage center in our community, if the schools are needed to be a second triage where again, I'm just speculating, I'm happy to use our buildings for places for testing if that need is needed. So yes, that would be a great way to use our public school facilities. Thank you.
Mr. Carter?
All right. Just going into the fact that this is really kind of right in the prime area of hiring and movements from district to district, and for new teachers coming out or looking to finish up their degrees in education, will this absence have an impact on new teacher employment?
Dr. Brackett and I were actually talking about that today, and I'm going to ask him to step to the mic. I know that we've had 2 elementary teacher fair interviews, and so we have several candidates that would love to have a job in the Russellville School District. And so while we don't have a lot of resignations right now, we only know of a couple. I'll pass that mic to Dr. Brackett. How do you feel, sir, that this absence might affect our new teacher employment?
At this time, I do not feel like it's going to have a great effect because of the timing that we're currently in. The universities have also slowed way down. They're online, and so the activity is not as great. I anticipate when we get the word that our cases are going down and things open back up, there may be a rush, and so we may be prepared for that. But currently we're trying, I've asked every building if they have anyone that a prospective retirement that hasn't announced yet. We're trying to get as much data as we can to keep up with that. But I'm confident because of the interest that we got at the 2, Arkansas Tech and UCA, the interest that we received in our conversations there, and also with our fair that Ms. Turney and her team of principals put on and did an outstanding job. It was very well received. So there's been kind of preliminary rounds already of identifying those type teachers that we're really looking for once the openings occur. And then if it happens in this environment, then we'll be interviewing like this, or we may be doing some online. But I'm confident that Russellville School District will be served well in this effort.
Thank you, Dr. Brackett. Just on a note, on the secondary level, I asked Mr. Harpinall earlier today, and he's only got really only 2 resignations that we had discussed that happened before this crisis occurred. So we have very few indications at this point, as Dr. Brackett mentioned, of any turnover right now, but great question.
Mr. White?
Let's swallow. Teacher evaluation performance has been a pretty big deal with the Department of Education, and I know in the past, of course, our building leaders, other supervisors have spent all year long in observing teachers, visiting with teachers about their performance. And if I remember correctly, this is about the time of the year that information comes together and those sit-downs happen where you have those cumulative conferences and you discuss good things that they're doing. Sometimes you have some recommendations of some needs improvement area. I just wonder, because, and this is a pretty scripted process with high expectations, how will this time, and we think maybe it'll even be, could possibly more, how's that going to impact this process?
We actually discussed that today, and the document that I have in front of me is a copy of the executive order by the governor. And in his executive order 2006, it includes the suspension for 30 days, including the evaluation. However, if we do not return to school, we would use the last day of instruction that a principal was able to evaluate a teacher, and we can still close our evaluation period up to that point. And so we're confident that we certainly have the time at this time to complete those. And so I'm confident that we can provide meaningful feedback, but sadly it would just be absent from 9 weeks of observation. However, because we have artifacts, Dr. Brackett, teachers are providing artifacts every 2 weeks of the work they're doing. So we can even evaluate them, assuming that the governor lifts this suspension or allows us to have local decision. We can even use how they've engaged students in these last 9 weeks on a digital platform as part of the evaluation. So to your point as a former principal, it is still very important, and I believe we can still provide quality feedback from the face-to-face as well as the artifacts that we can ask teacher to produce during this time. Any follow-up on that, Dr. Brackett?
I'm also confident that because of the way we began to use TESS, which is a Teacher of Excellence Support System, and our LEADS documents through EdReflect, that we are ahead of the game as far as I've ever seen at this time of the year. And I'm proud of our principals for accepting some of that responsibility, and we're going to even get better with that. So I feel like that we have been the last 3 weeks been talking about closing out anyway. In other words, closing out with the documents that we currently have and having those end-of-year conversations and start preparing for the professional growth of next year.
Thank you, sir.
Real quick to add on that, what about teachers that are on a growth plan or something like that where, you know, the evaluation, you've got to be allowed a year for evaluating them? Does this cut into that year? How does that work?
Yeah, I would say that the 30-day suspension will just have to be taken in consideration, and for any teacher that's on a growth plan, we would just add that 30 days or more, depending on the result of the how this year progresses. But yeah, honestly, we have not crossed that bridge yet. But I would guess that we would just
thought of it myself.
Yeah, that's okay. I would guess that we would just add the number of days to any teacher that's on a growth plan and honor the executive order by the governor.
Okay, Mr. Carter, I believe you've got the next question, number 6 here.
All right.
This is a big one.
Yeah, this is one that's really been reached out. The community's been really discussing, and I know Jason's been all on it too, but talking about graduation and prom and all those senior events that happen here at the end of the year. and it's not really a question, just discussion, what are our thoughts in the district and what have we looked into?
Yeah, the pause is because I feel so much for our community and our seniors and their families. I've had several seniors email me asking these very questions. At this point, all school events have been canceled at this point. For instance, we're in a dead period for athletics, and we'll receive further guidance after the 17th, April 17th. Because of students' inability to practice for their band and choir concerts, all of these events have been, I'll just say, temporarily canceled since we don't know the future. Because of the investment that our families make in prom, Mr. Harpinaugh and his leadership team visiting with the after-prom committee, at this point, prom is canceled. But folks, I want you to know that we're open to anything. If school remains out for the rest of the year in worst case scenario, then we can always regroup and look at something later. And so at this point, prom is, and I'll just use the phrase, temporarily canceled. That's what Mr. Harpinaugh has already announced. But all events have been. And of course, we can regroup at any time if we are able to return to school. So that's where I ask for the seniors and their parents to be patient, because believe me, we want our seniors to be able to enjoy all the senior activities. Now folks, I'd love some feedback here from our wonderful board. Graduation is a major concern for us. One thing that I have said is that we're going to provide some sort of graduation event. I look on my wall every day and I see a picture of me handing my daughter Megan her diploma. And that picture is very precious to me. It was very much an honor for me to be able to give Megan her diploma. You can't see anybody else in the photo. You can't see the large crowd that's at Tucker Coliseum. And so for me as a dad, that memory is very precious. So we are going to, I've asked Mr. Harpinaugh if he would ask the seniors if we have to have a closed or a live stream graduation for families to enjoy. How would that look? How would you want your graduation to be if we had to have it under the current order that we're under of not having events more than 10 folks? So I'd welcome feedback from the board, but I know that it is my desire and is my heart to provide some sort of a graduation ceremony honoring all the guidelines that we're under, with that memorable photograph. And the thing that Mr. Duval is doing right now is creating a live stream event. And so obviously we're open to any suggestions, but that's what we're able to offer at this time. And so anyway, feedback?
Just one comment I'd shared, of course, it is with Mr. Harpinaugh a little bit earlier before the meeting, but I think the seniors this is their shot, that's it, and it's the only opportunity they'll have. I think they just need a little bit of hope. I mean, if any things that they have can be preserved, I would love to see those opportunities preserved. And there's a lot of unknown. Many of these things are going to be dictated to us. How many people can get together in one particular spot at one particular time. But, they may, when their time comes that they're supposed to graduate, they may say, I'm out of here, I'm gone, it was just a bad deal. But I watched Dr. Phil today, and he interviewed a mom and a senior girl, and they talked about graduations, talked about prom. And, they talked about, he said, we have Christmas in July, you may have to have prom in July. I mean, it just depends on if that's what you want. Hopefully, they can get back, the seniors can experience their cookout. And some things they can have, but the key thing is, a lot of it, they just want to spend time together. They want to spend as much time together these last, how that looks, I don't think they'll be too particular. And I think they, of course, they're the ones to give you those answers. Prom's a tough one because they've spent money. I mean, many of them have their dresses. They've ordered things. So That's a tough one. Again, we may be told how many people can get together, but I would just hope that we can do as many things we can to still make this a memorable year for those kids.
To Wesley's
I've got a-
point, go ahead.
I just said agreed. Thank you, Mr. White.
Mr. Keistra?
To Wesley's point, and I think it might just be terminology, but when you hear canceled, you lose hope. And so I don't know if there would be any kind of adjustment in terminology to say something like temporarily postponed. You know, school is temporarily out till April 17th. Well, that's really all we know. Could we suggest that it is just postponed and we'll address it at a later date?
Certainly, because it's our heart to provide these opportunities for all these seniors. And so, excellent idea.
What are the official dates, like graduation and prom? What were those dates?
April 18th was prom, and that's why we made the decision, knowing that it would be difficult to plan for it once we were able to resume. And then May 16th is graduation. Tucker has already, Arkansas Tech has already announced that they're moving their spring graduations to August. So I don't think it's practically reasonable to think that we can use Tucker in August for a May graduation. And I haven't even explored that because all of those dates have been canceled due to our current situation.
My current thoughts on especially graduation is, you know, if we are in the same predicament that we are currently, is we have the facilities to make it work. I mean, we got enough space, if you will, to be able to have 10 people, someone walk through, you know, and I think of the Fine Arts Building, you can get someone to walk through while other people are waiting in the room or waiting outside, however that looks. We got enough hallways and you can divert people if you want to organize that chaos. I'm not volunteering for that, but I'm saying that opportunity is there. Just with our facilities, if you look at them overall in general, I think we have the space to do something if it comes down to that. On the prom front, I mean, I've been in different districts where there has been off-site prom events. So, you know, that is, I guess, an option that's out there. Still, you know, you're looking at the mandates of the governor and the president of not having more than 10 people at a location. But, you know, whenever this starts clearing up, and, you know, what's been eating at me the whole time is this we haven't seen the peak of it, and it's going to hit 6 to 8 weeks out, and I'm sitting there going, why are we doing what we're doing if we're not curbing or changing anything? You know, I mean, it just blows my mind that people, one, don't let something work to see what the results are, you know. But the next thing is, you know, April 17th, I understand the problem, not having it the next day whenever school's able to come back in, but, you know, it seems to me like if we do what we're supposed to be doing as a community and everything, we ought to be able to get something organized before the end of this actual school year time frame.
But, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Mr. Harpenall, but as we leave here tonight, as we stay here, as we sit here right this second, to be crystal clear with all the parents out there, as of right this second, prom is canceled as we all know it as the traditional prom. We might reschedule it. Graduation is still on.
That's correct.
As it stands right here today. Okay.
Because to Mr. Carter's point, we do have the facilities, we do have the technology. We've actually brainstormed, Mr. Carter, that we could have a graduation where kids come in at groups, East Lab or Mr. Duval, somebody could live stream it, hire the photographer, we could limit the Center for the Arts with less than 10 folks and create that memorable moment like I have on my wall, Mr. Cloud. So we are open. Folks, we are so open to the many suggestions, but we have the facilities, we have the technology, but right now, yes, prom is canceled, but graduation is still going on as we understand it today. Mr. Harpinall?
Well, I think on prom, if I hear us, is right now it's temporarily, is that a good word, postponed?
It's not going to happen April 18th.
Yeah, we know April 18th because we can't go back to school till the 20th, but there are other options
Absolutely.
available.
Summertime,
And,
yeah.
yes, so in the best interest, you were going to, we're getting questions, and thank you, but one thing kind of tied into this, Mr. Harpino, and you go, is a lady has asked, or a young man, what about our laptops, that our high school students have? What is the process? Or, if we don't go back, I guess that's something we can look into and definitely get to our students. But Mr. Harp, could you? Yes.
That was brought up to me, I think, last week. And right now, I don't know what that process is going to look like, just because everything's up in the air. But we'll have to come up with some type of procedures on how to get all those laptops back. And so what that looks like right now, I really couldn't tell you. So, but we'll come up with something.
Well, good. And that's one thing with our forum tonight is we may not have an answer now, but we'll get an answer. And because we know that it's a fluid situation, it changes every day. Dr. Gocher?
Back on graduation.
Yeah,
Before we
Morgan.
leave that topic.
Can you get a little closer?
Just get closer, that's all. As far as graduation and meeting the necessary requirements for graduation, the governor declared that the current seniors have met that requirement. Is that my understanding? So as far as graduation, receipt of a diploma, receipt of a transcript, for these seniors applying for college, applying for trade schools, can you somehow reassure them that there's not going to be any delay in that process for some of them? Which I know that ties into some of the other questions about concurrent credit and AP. So, I mean, it's all kind of piled up in one pile about the graduation requirements and them meeting those requirements and receipt of their diploma. Because a lot of application requirements are, hey, we want a copy of your diploma, we want a copy of your transcript. I know that's a lot of questions and a lot of information, but can you kind of clarify that? Because I've gotten a lot of those questions. I got one right before I left the house related to that.
Sure. The governor's guidance or the department's guidance in that 12-page document, it was declared that seniors, and I'll read this, that are in good standing as of third 9 weeks reporting period will be considered, quote, as meeting graduation requirements for the state of Arkansas. School districts, however, may still implement local policies for honor graduates and class rank and should make local decisions regarding end-of-year engagement as in AMI, or engagement in their coursework that we're providing for current high school seniors. They further say we encourage districts to find ways to continue to support seniors next regarding graduation, helping them with FAFSA, scholarship applications, all of those things. We received this on Friday, and so Mr. Harpinall, Dr. Brackett, we've already begun discussing, along with Ms. Pennington, our Director of Teaching and Learning for Secondary. So we've already begun to explore how that might look. So while we don't know all the answers, like for instance, Mr. Barrett, it also says that for those seniors that aren't meeting graduation requirements, they can enter into credit recovery. Well, I explored the question today with Mr. Harpinall, why can't we get those seniors that were not ready to graduate, go ahead and get them in credit recovery in the chance that they could complete their credit recovery and still possibly participate. So there's a lot of local flexibility that's out there. And while we received this document on Friday, we've already brainstormed on how to still fulfill the honors graduate component. That's a local decision. So there are some seniors that have met and the state's declared it. But for the honors graduates, for rank of class, AP is a whole nother discussion. I think I think I've got some information on that in one of my documents that we'll get to in a bit. But the department has encouraged these two words in many categories: maximum flexibility. So while we may not be happy with their decision to end third quarter as meeting graduation requirements, we still have some local decisions to make. So does that help answer? I know it's a lot of questions and a lot of answers in one moment. Does that help?
Well, I think that kind of clarifies it. It would be a matter of graduation and receipt of, their diplomas and their transcripts, and what's their transcripts going to look like. It's going to missing, there's a lot of colleges that it's going to look funny too, but hopefully they'll have the understanding of what everyone's going through at this time.
And I think that's another reason, Mr. Harpino, that it's important to do our best to have some sort of graduation event on May 16th, so his office can continue that process for completing transcripts.
As long as I think it's, a black and white issue, that there's no gray area, I think that's what people are looking for. Which I got some text about prom while we're sitting here, because I think there's still some confusion. One of the texts I got was, well, is prom canceled or is it postponed? I don't think we're given clear guidance on that. I think probably, at least my interpretation of what the decision is that it's canceled unless it can be scheduled at a later date. I mean, is that the best answer?
Yeah, it's canceled.
Yeah, I apologize if there's been confusion in the way I've answered it, but...
No, it's not you. I think it's just the discussion.
Sure.
We've had a lot of discussion, and so people are hearing ideas and some answers mixed together. So I think we just need to give definitive answers on some of this.
I think the proper thing is it's canceled until further notice, with the genuine heart of this administration to provide a prom opportunity. And
that was my understanding.
Sure. No, it is difficult. It is very difficult. Thank you for that. And I apologize if I've not made that clear. And so thank you for that.
Could I make just one more comment? Of course, I've been known as the eternal optimist. And I know realistically that the way things are headed, it looks like that these kids will have a family online type graduation. But President Trump's going to get a secure, we're going to get a treatment. I mean, and we're hoping that curve goes down. That maybe with a little divine intervention, there just might not hold out hope that there could be a larger group gathering for graduation. I would like the kids to know that still could be a possibility. Lots of things have to happen. And I'm betting that Tech will not let us use their facilities, but we have a football stadium, we have a big old huge arena. But if it's safe, we could still salvage that. And I've like to throw that out there.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Any other comments?
I'll make just one more. I mean, the hardest thing is whenever this first started was all the information coming out. It was changing hourly. We were in our discussions on what do we need to do, what's the next step, what directions the school need to take, and we were getting information every hour on the hour, something new, something different, something that changed the way we had to be thinking about this whole thing. And needless to say, we're still getting reports daily on something new, something different, things that we need to take into consideration moving forward. And so, like Mr. White said, there's nothing to say that in a week we come back and they go, oh, looks like as long as we stay the course, our timeline is going to be on the mark. And at that point, whenever that discussion starts, here comes the next discussion of, all right, now let's start trying to line things up. But I mean, cannot say enough about our teachers, our staff, our administration, of whenever it was time to hit the ground running, we hit it running hard and made our adjustments on the fly, which was, commendable, and we're still working on that.
Mr. Carter, I think Dr. Brackett has shared some tweets as well, but our teachers, in a matter of days, redefined how to deliver instruction. In a matter of days. Now, high school was already having a sort of a digital learning platform, but to watch and to hear our leaders work to find ways to serve our kids and provide them an education was simply powerful. One of the tweets that Dr. Brackett sent out was, folks, if we get out of the way and let teachers do their jobs, they're going to figure out a way. Remember that tweet? So anyway, thank you, Mr. Carter.
Mr. Golden?
Okay, so as you heard me say earlier, I've got two kids at the high school, so my next two questions is going to be kind of piggyback on what Morgan said a minute ago. I know there's a lot of people commenting online right now, but the next two questions are to use my term, be crystal clear about where we're at with concurrent credit for seniors, and explain, please, so everybody understands exactly what's going on, AP classes for college credit, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. We're still learning from the College Board, who is the sponsor or the organization that oversees AP. The guidance that we've received thus far from the College Board, students enrolled in courses for weighted credit, such as AP, should still receive weighted credit regardless of the ability of the student to take an AP assessment. But however, keep this in mind, they must take the AP exam to receive college credit. They'll still receive weighted credit according to the guidelines, but they must take the AP exam to receive college credit. Here is all we have right now on the AP exam, and I'll read this so I won't misunderstand or create any misunderstanding. Each AP exam looks to now be online and reduced. Each exam will be available to be taken from home or within 45 minutes. The link should have a chart of which units will be tested and which units will not be tested. New testing schedules will be released Friday, April 23rd, so there's still some time.
My sheet says 3rd.
April 3rd, I don't know where I got 23rd. April 3rd, excuse me, still some time. They will offer 2 different testing dates for students who wish to take exams sooner. Beginning on Wednesday, March 25th, students and teachers can attend free live AP review courses delivered by the AP teachers from across the country. It is uncertain at this point how students will, without access to the internet, will take the exam from home, but we're working on getting answers to those questions. And students do have the option to cancel their test at no charge. So those are direct statements from College Board as given to me by Ms. Sumter, and so this is still a moving target, Mr. Golden, but I think the thing that we do know is AP exams must be taken to receive their college credit. Did that help clarify some things for you and your family and the audience as well?
Yeah, I think it did.
The question about concurrent credit classes, as a former teacher of
Yes.
concurrent credit, where, for example, pre-Cal at the high school, the students could receive 6 hours of college credit from Arkansas Tech. And as my understanding, Arkansas Tech is going to work with the concurrent credit teachers so that, for example, when I turned a grade into Tech, they accepted that. So that's what I expect will happen with the concurrent credit classes. Their work that they do on the computer and turn in and their testing, that when the teacher turns in that grade, that Arkansas Tech is going to accept that.
Are they
Because
gonna,
their students are out for the rest of the semester.
Correct.
So they're taking everything online anyway. So
Yeah,
that's what I expect will happen.
Good, thank you.
And it's based on the teacher, what the teacher's grade that she turns in to Tech, just like if they were out there at the school.
Good.
I would think that they'd probably be given the same direction to the concurrent courses that they're given to the current professors and lecturers I'm finishing my course up online. I
Right.
no longer go to
Yes.
class on everything
Yes.
that I'm teaching, so.
And I know that I have not heard any communication from Arkansas Tech at this point on concurrent. Have you gentlemen any information at this point? But we can, go ahead, sir.
I received an email late last week, and Ms. Wynn, you are correct. All the students should have received an email, not only from their RHS teacher, but from their ATU supervisor out there as well. They sent an email to all the students about what they needed to do in order to complete that course and get the college credit. So they should be in their email.
And if a student doesn't have access to email, you can always go to the public library and get on the internet. Am I correct?
The
The public library's
public
closed?
library,
Never mind then.
Judge
Take it back.
Cross closed those last week.
Way to go, Ben. Come on, man.
Thank you, Ms. Wynn. But yeah, certainly we're going to find a way.
Jeremy?
So if they can't get the email, they still can contact the office at RHS on Monday and somehow work out how to get that email if for some reason there's no access.
Believe me, they get the email.
They could get that on their phone, too.
They'll
I
get the
think.
email.
It's true.
Thank you. Any more comments on that?
I do want to say a comment for, Jason and other senior parents out there, because I know what these kids do in the AP and how big that exam is for them. That's about as hopeful of a statement as I could see them rescheduling the testing, giving new testing dates, and 2 different opportunities to take the test, because really those kids just they just need the opportunity. That's a lot of work to put in on a year,
That's exactly what mine said. He said,
not to be able to get your
Yeah.
credit that you're looking for
Exactly.
as the end goal. So that's awesome being able to do that.
AP has stopped new content, and that stopped third quarter. And so from here, moving forward up to the AP exam would be just reviewing for that exam. So that would be something good to know for the students.
So they would modify the test.
They
to not
modified the
include
test.
Third quarter or fourth quarter
Yes.
content. Good. That's good news. Thank you.
Dr. Gocher, this is, as we listen to Governor Hutchinson every day in the press conference, starting Monday when school gets back in session, how do we protect our employees in our buildings next week? And then to piggyback off that is, will we limit our people coming in and out? I know that information seems to change daily from the governor, but how are we going to protect our people and our facilities?
Mr. Cloud, it's something that we've talked about literally every day since the closures began. I know Mr. Keister mentioned the buses that are delivering meals. We received guidance that we've got to screen our volunteers, and we were able to provide masks for our volunteers and for our bus drivers. And so that was our first step of protecting, since they are still performing a task that's keeping them out in the public. So as you said, the information changes. We're awaiting guidance daily from the Division of Elementary Secondary Ed or the governor's office. At this point, in the absence of guidance, teachers are still allowed to go into their classroom and get whatever materials they need, or they can log onto their computer and use the information on their computer. But I'm encouraging at this point to just limit your time in the classroom, limit your time in the building, because our maintenance and custodial crews are still cleaning them and still doing their task to continue to create a sanitized and healthy environment. We've discussed that beginning Monday, we may lock our front doors and serve people as they come to the front door to answer their questions, to limit people coming in. Again, we're just exploring that, because as we've all learned that every day is different. I want to continue to serve our customers. But there's multiple ways that we can do that. We can forward our phones to one location. We can meet the guests through the door and speak to them through the door. So we're awaiting that guidance, but in the meantime, we are considering closing our doors while still serving our customers. And I would love to have feedback, because that was discussed today and that decision's not been made. Mr. Holt, I don't know if you have any comment on that from what you're reading as well, but in terms of how to protect based upon, good, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Coach, that's been sanitized for you.
Oh, it looks good. A little close, though.
And Coach Holt, thanks for coming tonight, Coach.
Well, I think just from the information that we're receiving from the State Department and the conversations that we've had, if we can keep from putting people in danger, we need to do that. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. And we can get information out, whether it's through social media or so forth. We'll do that also. So, you know, it may come to a point where we just don't need people at our buildings, you know, serving people in person. I mean, I know that's harsh.
It is.
But you just got to read the data. You got to understand we got to do things differently. So I agree with you 100%.
Thank you, sir.
What's the accessibility of our teachers to be able to get their materials for future AMIs online and all that? And then to spread it from there.
Well, currently, we're just limiting their time in there. I don't foresee that our doors will be completely closed, because we're not a public place like a public library or a courthouse. So I still think we can honor the CDC guidelines and the White House's guidance and still allow teachers to create and have limited access. I think the hard part that Mr. Holt and I have been dealing with is how do you serve your customers when face-to-face is a great advantage of our profession. But I don't see a reason to completely lock our doors from all access, because at this point we can still honor the guidelines.
Hey, Chris.
Morgan?
Can we maybe see if Rachel has any questions that have been submitted online and try to get to some of those? I think there may have been.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, there's one on AMI packets. Rachel,
Yeah.
you might jump to that. It's one of your...
And I see one on kindergarten registration. That's a very good question. Registration. So, yeah, Dr. Goat or Rachel, a couple of those, the AMI packets and then kindergarten registration.
Probably get it put on a mic so it can be broadcast.
Here's one. Is RSD looking at continuing AMI packets or using blended technology for continuing instruction? If technology is in planned route, how is RSD going to act to ensure all students have access to virtual instruction that is offered?
Here's what we're doing today, or doing at this moment. We've made a decision with the teaching and learning team to prepare 2 weeks of instruction. 2 weeks of instruction. That way students can have learning tasks, as we're calling them, for 2 weeks. I visited with a mom today and she said, my daughter's done, she needs some more work to do. And I said, ma'am, we'll be addressing that on Monday. And I said, in the meantime, continue reading your favorite books, continue doing things outside, because some students are completing their learning task much sooner. So our plan, as we left it last Friday, was to create, or a week ago Monday, was to prepare 2 weeks of material. We've already had discussions, Mr. Keister, about deploying technology. So our school leaders are calling to say who needs technology, and we're checking that out. I had a great conversation with Ms. Cook at the intermediate school. She has 200 devices. She has 100 kids that need devices. So she's working on how to get that out. And again, the buses can be used for some of this in terms of delivering. I know that Suddenlink, the overarching company, Altice, is offering 60 days of free internet to families who need it. So we're going to keep that in mind, and whether we have to provide them a physical paper copy or we're able to deploy a device in their hands and get them hooked up on the internet, we're still so young in this, but every device that we have, we are willing to give to the families and the students that need it to complete their work. Dr. Brackett, any follow-up on that, sir, since you've been a hard leader in that discussion?
I had to hunt this down, but last Friday, in anticipation, and then Monday, we had to change, on Sunday afternoon when we met up and saw the governors, we changed our whole conversation, our whole agenda for a meeting. And it was that week, so it'd be a week ago today, we began to look at, after the 2 weeks of packet information, of AMI information, what will that look like? And this is what we're focusing on. One is to be consistent across schools. Two is no test prep. We're not preparing for an exam again. And then focus on standards-based learning, which would include critical thinking, problem solving, project-based, personalized, with student choice. So our teams have put together, and after, it would be a week from Friday, we're looking at focusing on those type project works for students to do so that it can enhance their critical thinking and their problem solving by presenting in a project-based form with their choice, and also letting them personalize it for their learning. Having had opportunities to travel the country to look at schools that created standards to learn by, we wanted to move away in this segment from content. Content requires more teacher interaction. It also, new content. And so if we can take and do kind of like what College Board has done with AP, that's been the efforts we've done, is cut back on the content and move toward standards-based learning. And I think our teachers are relieved from that. Also, how are they going to grade? All of our secondary schools have aligned, similar to what an elementary would be, is they're doing their advisory groups. And so their advisory groups are the ones that are focused on these projects and working and checking on these kids. I might add this, Doc. When we talked in our teaching and learning group, we came to the conclusion that our biggest concern is the anxiety, anger, and depression that our students and staff are going to be facing. No ball games, possibly no prom, possibly changing significantly how graduation is done. We're concerned about that, and so our advisory groups are taking and contacting these students on a consistent basis. And when we get into this, where students can express themselves and personalize their own learning, there's an opportunity to make a great difference in their lives. So that's been our movement toward that.
Okay, can I jump in? I'm still getting some text that people are confused. You know, people are tuning in because they want answers, and we're getting a question, then we're having a 20-minute discussion. That's why people are getting confused. I think they're looking for answers. And if we can give them concise, clear, black and white answers, I think that's what they're looking for. I mean, I'm getting a lot of text about, I can't follow, and honestly, I can't follow some of this. I mean, they're looking for some answers, and I think that's what we're here to provide. So if we can, give them some, straightforward answers, I think it's going to be helpful. Otherwise, we're going to lose the attention. I think that's why people are tuning in and posting questions.
Hey, Mark, I think to clarify what he's saying is we've got one more week of AMI days. That's what we know. When will we receive the next 2 weeks, to your point, the next 2 weeks of AMI packets? Second part of that is, will we go paper packets or will we go digital packets?
Folks, we don't know exactly. We received this on Friday, and we're going to regroup on Monday, since they have already got their teaching and learning tasks for the week after spring break. We'll regroup and make those decisions. It is tough because every school is going to do something, secondary is going to do something different than elementary because of the different buildings. So I don't know that I have an answer for some of this, just because we're going to provide paper copies for those that don't have internet, but our hope is that we don't have to provide any paper if we can get devices.
Okay, let me
So, yeah,
help you there.
help me out. If
So
you can-
we know we have to have AMI information to our families next week. This is spring break. We've got AMI packets through next Friday, right?
Through next Friday,
So
correct.
we know that there's going to be a plan devised by your team that AMI packets will come out sometime at the end of next week.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, does that,
I'm talking about all the questions.
That
but-
was one, and then they're still coming in from prom, so.
Yeah.
I think we'll clarify. I know Jason's got a question next, and he can add to that, but.
I think Rachel still has a lot of questions. She
Yes.
hadn't asked one.
But on
And we
prom-
never asked her to ask some a while ago.
On
We
prom.
kept talking and having discussion instead of getting to the questions.
On prom, I believe right now we know we can't have it on the date that's listed. But right now, it's temporarily, the word used, postponed to a future date. Graduation is still on, but it's to be determined if it's going to have to be at a different location or not.
I love temporarily postponed instead of canceled. Hope.
Rachel, do you have, I know we had one, Dr. Gocher, on kindergarten registration. I got a couple of texts on that. That's next month that we, on a normal schedule, that is next month.
She had just asked what that would look like, what changes, and if we had dates yet for our kindergarten registration. If there's anything that we could give our parents right now.
not at this time.
I did have some questions, particularly about our seniors in AMI. Ms. Blair said that in light of the ADE's recent decision that all seniors in good standing after the third 9 weeks are eligible to graduate, should or will seniors continue to do AMI work after spring break? How will this affect their class rank and their graduate status, or their honors graduate status? And then I had Ms. Tina asked if seniors who are done need to turn in their AMI work after spring break.
We are going to continue to make local decisions. Again, we received this on Friday. We had this discussion today, and we talked about it some over the weekend. We will have that discussion about what our district plans to do regarding local decisions. The state has said that third 9 weeks in good standing, a senior has completed the graduation requirements for the state. Decisions have not been made how that will impact our local decision. My hope is that we keep all seniors engaged, but we don't know what that's going to look like yet. So it's an unknown at this time. I wish I could be more specific. Dr. Brackett, just a yes or no? It's just unknown how that local policy is going to look, or local decision is going to look. Sorry, folks, that's the best we can do.
Miss Rachel, you got a couple more?
I have a whole lot about prom. I have a lot of suggestions if the board wants to hear just a few of them. One of them asked if we could do a parade of seniors downtown, keep them in their vehicle and hand them their diploma at the end of the parade. Another one suggested using our Cyclone Stadium. So just still getting in a lot of questions about graduation. And I did have, I had a young lady say that she appreciated Mr. White being hopeful for their students, and that's pretty much what the senior class wants. They just want some hope that they're going to have a normal or semi-normal end of the year.
If the board would allow me, I would, Jason, if you would, I hope to not put you on the spot, but if you could kind of take that, the conditions we're in now, maybe keep that updated, and since you are a parent at the high school, maybe be the parent facilitator and just brainstorm ideas with some of these people. Jason's easy to get a hold of. If that's okay with the board, we can, in the future, we hope we get better news in 3 and 4 weeks, and some of the guidelines that are imposed go away. Only time will tell. We're all in uncharted waters. But Jason?
That's no problem. It'll be in cooperation with Mr. Harpernall, of course.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
That's no problem.
So what I'm hearing about graduation is graduation's still on. It's still scheduled for the same date. We just don't know what it's going to look like.
Yes, or the location.
Is there a message board, Coach Harpernall, for parents and students to give ideas and things that could be reviewed by someone?
We were looking at doing a Google form or survey and send it out to all the seniors and get their input on what it looks like, what graduation would look like with social distancing and without social distancing. So we just wanted to get their input and see what their thoughts are.
Yeah, I think it's important that we hear them. Absolutely, thanks.
I did receive this text from Ms. Pennington, who's watching live, that the elementary and the secondary teams are meeting on March 30th to discuss senior AMI work and kindergarten registration to make decisions. So March 30th will be the discussion.
Okay, so, Mr. Harpernall, I'm sure that's okay. You and Mr. Golden work together. Yeah, I know y'all go way back. Rachel, Miss Rachel, you have...
I've had 2 more questions that kind of are concise, discussing technology. One of our parents has asked if the elementary grade school students, if they're considered giving laptops to them. And then I had another ask if we could do a laptop per household, and if maybe we could consider doing something like that, just to allow everyone the possibility of having a Chromebook at home.
Certainly, we're open to anything at this point. Thank you for your questions, whoever the audience member was. Thank you.
Well, and just to add to that, be sure and reach out to your administrators. Of course, this week's not a good week because it's still spring break, but, whenever they get back in 30th, shoot them emails. We'll still have our secretaries taking phone calls at the schools. So you can, questions like that where like, hey, I'm a household, I've got kids in different buildings, we just need a Chromebook. One piece of technology at the house is definitely something that's more than doable. And because I know there's plenty of households that have their own computers and whatnot. So, I know that there was communication before we decided, hey, we're going to shut down school. There was communication, hey, what do you have available? Do your kids need this? What do they need? But that communication was also on a limited scale of, people who are helping with PTOs or people who are, are on the Facebook page, so, that interaction was probably limited whenever you look at district-wide, but there was still some interaction with administrators trying to figure out what their resources are at their school, at their building, to be able to get to the students and what students needed those resources. So,
Will we be able to post a summary of the question and answers on our Facebook page after tonight?
That great idea, Mr. Barrett, great idea.
What was the question, Morgan? A little closer.
Go ahead, Morgan.
Go ahead.
Mr. Barrett, of the questions that were listed that Rachel gave us tonight regarding even the kindergarten registration prom and all that, if we could compile a list of that in the morning and somehow put summarized answers on our website for our people to see that weren't able to join us tonight in the video. Maybe some of these questions that we've had, if we could summarize them into some answers for some people.
It may be next week, but we'll get them done.
Probably cut down a lot of phone calls.
Yeah, with the technology that we have, the help of our communication coordinator, there's going to be a lot of questions, and I think probably Mr. Harpno, our counselors, are going to have some key information they're going to need to get out, particularly to seniors. I think they're the ones that are most impacted, that probably, given a little bit of time, latter part of next week or something, via Facebook, podcast, whatever avenue that they need to know that they need to tune in at what particular time, or if they can get this continuous. you can get, I mean, they just, they need information, as we know more specific things, we can get that to them. So whatever, I mean, I just think that will be important that sometime next week that they get as many answers as they can.
They're supposed to be back doing their work next week, right? I mean, this is spring break.
Yes,
And
correct.
There's a lot of questions pertaining to work that's taking place next week, or what they think they should be doing next week after spring break. So the sooner we can get those answers, I mean, I think it would cut down on a lot of questions to our administrators and to our schools if we can get them the answers, before the first of next week.
Now regarding AMI, if I'm, Dr. Gocher
Yeah.
and Jeremy, is everyone has their AMI packets through
Through next week. Yes, sir.
Friday, like April 2nd or 3rd?
This is spring break, we have packets for next week.
Through April 3rd.
Yes.
Yes, through April 3rd. Thank you, Ms. Nguyen.
Yeah, but there were some questions about work, if they're supposed to do work like the seniors. One of the questions,
We're meeting on Monday, March 30th to discuss those, so yeah.
you don't have an answer to that yet, right?
Yeah, we don't have the answer to that.
Because you just got that Friday.
Friday.
Yeah.
Mr. Golden?
Yeah, so another question has come up, just, Reader's Digest version here. How are we facilitating with seniors in regards to counselors, in regards to scholarships, Cyclone Achievement, all that fun stuff? Dr. Gocher and Al, how are we communicating with these guys? This is
Mr. Harpinell and I had that discussion today with Dr. Brackett. We'll be working with our high school counselors next week because they'll have to redefine their roles to serve the seniors as they prepare for their post-secondary decisions. So we'll be pulling them together next week to see how they can serve them. I know Ms. Nguyen had a comment earlier before the meeting.
I
Ms.
really,
Nguyen?
this is a big time for counselors at the high school with seniors. There are a lot of things going on, like scholarships, financial aid, honor graduates, all of those kinds of things. And generally, the counselors have just met with them like a lot during this time. They've also had people coming from tech to talk to them about financial aid, and there are deadlines that they have to meet. Now, some of those deadlines may change, but they may not. So I would really like to see some videos that are uploaded to the seniors where the, one topic might be, they need to, at this point, they need to have applied to colleges and be accepting scholarships or not, turning down scholarships. But the counselors usually tell them all this, but they may have to have videos now, or I heard Mr. White say a podcast, that, that's a little bit, might be a better thing, but somehow we need to still communicate with our seniors. This is an important time for them. It could mean the difference in whether they get a scholarship or not. And so, whatever we need to do in order to communicate with those seniors is very important, and their parents, very important.
And that kind of leads into our community scholarships and.
Community scholarships is a part of that.
What's it called, Wes, again?
Celebration of Excellence.
Yeah. Because I know there'll be some questions on community scholarships and celebration of excellence, and how's that going to be addressed?
And then get with our community people to let them know when that is too, so.
Ms. Nguyen Ms. Nguyen and Morgan, but, Dr. Goach, that'd be great, like for our seniors, maybe next week when our counselors come back, if I think we're all agreeable, I think a video would be great.
And I know this counselors are going to do whatever they need to do. I mean, we have great counselors, but it's just, it's a new wrinkle for us to get that information out. But somehow we need to still do a really good job with our seniors, getting that information out.
Yes, ma'am. Cyclone Achiever,
yeah.
Celebration of Excellence.
So we're working on releasing some information on guidance to seniors, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. That would be real important coming from this meeting, Dr. Gocher, and then Mr. Harpino, get with those high school counselors, and I know all you got to do is ask, and they'd be more than willing to help. But I think Ms. Wainwright, maybe in a video, it might be easier. And of course, my heart, and I know our board's heart, goes out to all these seniors right now. It's a difficult time. It's a time of uncertainty. And we want to try to, through these uncharted waters, make this experience the best that it can possibly be.
So,
Morgan?
Dr. Gocher, can you summarize what that answer would be regarding the community scholarships and scholarship applications and I forgot what it's called again.
Celebration of
Celebration of
Excellence.
Excellence.
Yes.
We have not even discussed that yet because our focus has been on taking care of the instruction, so that is all going to happen next week. Since
So you're
we
going to be releasing information on that?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Because that's a question that I've gotten. Like I said, that was one of the questions before I left the house. Ms. Wynn had the same thought, and then I've gotten some more text about community scholarships. I know we're not there yet, but
We're not.
you're going to be releasing it as y'all develop.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Ms. Rachel, could you make a note of that so that we be sure that we have some information regarding that next week? Yeah, all the senior activities that normally occur in late April and the month of May.
And I would suggest, Mr. Harpino, when your team of counselors get together and create an FAQ, frequently asked question document, we'll post it on the website. It's just, things are happening so fast.
And I can remember, there may be a particular community scholarship, and there'll be a deadline that the students have to apply for that scholarship, and they have to turn in recommendations, and they have to turn in their form that they have with it. So, we may have to make some adjustments on those deadlines for, for example, the nuclear plant gives a scholarship. They probably have a deadline on when they want that done, and we may have to try to adjust that, but somehow we need to communicate to the students when they need to turn things in, and they may have to turn it in through the computer. And I'm certainly not the one to tell them how to do that, but there needs to be a way for them to still be able to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Wynn.
Will there be a point person on top of that, Mr. Harpino, that's their focus? Okay, good.
Mr. Golden?
Okay, got two quick questions. One came from online that they want a short, clear answer. Will RSD follow the Arkansas Department of Education's guidance that seniors can now be graduated as long as they are in good standing by the end of third quarter? They want a yes or no, if that's possible.
We are working on that on Monday.
Okay.
State decision and local decision. So the local decision has not been made.
Got it.
Hopefully, we can make that clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second question, we've missed a lot of school. I've had some elementary teachers ask me over the last couple of days, will curriculum be modified next year because so much has been missed this year?
Ms. Pennington and I discussed that very thing today, and while the AMI days, let's say that the governor extends them to the rest of the year, we could have some summer school opportunities. We've not discussed that, but that could be an opportunity. And so that is something else that's going to be discussed. Are there some standards in this fourth 9 weeks that a fourth grader would need to carry into fifth grade? So that is being discussed as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Rachel, any more important questions that we might could get?
We will explore that next week as well. We will continue to find students that aren't being connected, and we're going to serve them.
But hey, Mark, we'll get them an AMI packet one way or another, right?
Those buses are delivering.
Come on.
Yes.
I think that's if digital technology is not for them, and for all the students in rural areas that may have internet and it doesn't
Absolutely.
work, I'm one of them. We'll get AMI
Absolutely.
packets to everybody.
They've got to reach out, though.
Yep.
They've got to communicate with us, too, so that we know.
Absolutely. We've gone through some of these questions. Ms. Wynn, you're...
Hey, real quick, that question was around technology, the one we just answered. They didn't hear the question.
Okay.
One question that we might want to answer is about IEP students, and how is that working out with the AMI lessons, and how is it working out with parents that have to work, parents of these students that have to work, or how is that working out for us?
Such a great question, and that's something that's always been a concern for me when we have to deliver instruction at home for students with an IEP. While the federal government is granting us maximum flexibility, I still want us as a district to provide the best education and the modifications for these students. With that being said, Ms. Wynn, I reached out to Ms. Turner. Ms. Turner is our Director of Special Services, overseeing special education in 504. So twice a week, calls are being made on their caseload meaning the students that are under their leadership. Most will call, but some prefer email. And the same for our homeless population and our migrant students. A part of our population are considered homeless or considered migrant, and we're reaching out to them as well. Some of them have the ability to do Google Hangout, which is like a face-to-face or FaceTime, and they're using a program with elementary students called Class Dojo. It's like a group type format of texting particular students in your class. We've got some principals that are creating contact logs and making sure they're staying engaged. And Ms. Turner plans to check in to each of the teachers by Wednesday of each week to ensure that they're on track. So while that is one of my biggest concerns as a superintendent, taking care of our students with special needs, they are getting a lot of attention through Mrs. Turner and those teachers. And so while it's not perfect, we are making sure that they are cared for. Thank you.
Mr. Golden?
Yeah, another one that's going to hit a lot of people. How are we serving our EL students right this second during this season?
Ms. Stewart, Danielle Stewart is our EL director for English learners. Marcella Estrada is also in her office, and she has translated all the secondary AMI packets. ESL teachers are calling the students every few days, providing interpreters for those that need it. Sent home paper versions of ESL supplemental activities. Next week, Ms. Estrada, they're making tutorials in Spanish, Mr. Golden, that I thought was pretty great, and how to do the AMI packets. And several of the kids have connected with their teachers via social media, and so information is going out often, taking care of our English learning students, similar to what we're doing with our students with special needs.
Thank you, Dr. Coach.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Carter?
Well, we kind of touched on the last one of the concerns of not being ready for advancement to the next grade and summer school possibilities. I know we haven't talked a whole lot about summer school possibilities. Kind of just clarify what that might look like here on the preliminary discussions.
Credit recovery for seniors or for secondary students, we already have an online platform, and it'll be similar to last year, I assume, Mr. Harpinaugh. The credit recovery is similar to last year's. I know Mr. Holt has been our administrator for the middle level summer school, so we'll begin those discussions, because the thing that I don't want is I don't want any parent or any teacher feeling those students are going to slip through the cracks. So summer school may look differently, but as I've said, that we will always discuss that possibility, how we can increase our services for those students that need summer school or some kind of enrichment program. So those are, again, too early to answer, but that's my goal.
I have another question,
Ms.
follow-up question. For students who, this is the time of year that they start registering for their classes for the next year at the high school, for example, or even ninth grade for 10th grade, 10th grade for 11th grade.
Is it already done?
Is this already been done? Okay.
Oh, good. Already been done for the audience. Registration's already taken
right.
care of.
Thank you.
Also, I got a text regarding our athletes. We are currently, and Jason, I know, has got in a dead period, which means it's like the summer. No coaches can have very little contact in our facilities. And that is through April 17th. It's our hope and prayer that by then some of these restrictions are lifted, and then we'll be waiting on guidance from the AAA. And again, our heart goes out to all these athletes, even the choir students, band students that have worked so hard and put a lot of time and effort into that. And so only time will tell in the next few weeks how we'll going forward on that. Do we have any other comments, questions from?
I've got one question.
Jason?
Just to help people online understand the magnitude of something. So when somebody online asks if we can give everybody a Chromebook, can you please tell us how many students we have in our district?
5,213 students.
Okay. So even if we said yes, mobilizing 5,200 laptops would be near impossible between now and, I mean, I don't know any store that has 5,000 computers just sitting on the shelf.
We actually checked, Mr. Golden, with Mr. Janelle, our technology IT director, information director, and we're several weeks out. The backlog of computers being purchased is increasing because schools are doing the same thing. But we feel, based upon just our preliminary numbers, that we can take care of the technology needs based upon our current inventory. High school's taken care of.
Right.
With about 20, as of last count, extra to help for those that have broken keyboard or broken screen. So we have a backlog of 20 to serve as kind of an insurance policy for them. And as you go younger, we will just address those, like my example with Ms. Cook.
Sure.
So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And one more question. I have several questions asked to me over the last week and then online. As far as grading AMI, maybe I missed this, if I did, I'm sorry, but are we grading based on participation, or are we grading based on what is on the documents that the kids have in their hand today?
Since the governor suspended all grading and attendance for 30 days, right now we are just encouraging their engagement. And while we can't say that we're grading because of the governor's orders, we are monitoring their engagement.
Okay.
And so that's, I know that sounds a little uncertain, but that was the executive order. So we're continuing engagement, and if we return to school, we will take all that in consideration. So I know it's tough. I wish I could be more precise.
No, I mean, that's the season we're in.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones, do you have anything else, Ms. Rachel?
It's just been mentioned several times on YouTube and on Facebook that they have already set up an RHS 2020 parent Facebook group, and that they will be up front with our principals and our administrations and try to keep all of the 2020 parents in the loop. I just felt like that was important, that that's already been established. So we have a lot of people that was the predominant question, so maybe you could add them for some information, or at least future information.
So our seniors that are listening, or their parents, we do have an RSD Senior 2020 Facebook page. I know some of those parents, I know the Palmers probably could share it on their page. I know
Miss Sarah Palmer.
Okay, I know the Vines, Danny Vines, and them have that. If they could just share that for some of the people that need that information. And of course, Mr. Golden will work with Mr. Harpino moving forward on our graduation and prom and things moving forward, how we're going to deal with that. Does the board, anything else, Ms. Rachel? Anything else the board wants to add?
I want to make one comment.
Yes, sir.
A lot of things will be happening over the next few weeks. And our leader has a lot of responsibility. And I just, for my part, want to encourage him. We all are all interested in what's happening. That's our roles. That's our jobs. We talk to a lot of people. But Dr. Gocher, I want you to be brutally honest at the point that we interfere in you doing your business. Please reach out to us and tell us. I mean, I know there's a tendency to want to text you, email you, call you or something, but I don't want us to be a part of the problem. I want us to be a part of the solution. And if you need us to get in contact with us, if we need to make a decision, we'll make it. But don't let us make your job harder. Let us help you do it better. And please be brutally honest about that, because we can take it.
I appreciate that, sir. I do welcome your input, and I value it, and I take it all and bring it back to our wonderful team. But I appreciate your confidence in your words. Thank you, sir.
I want to add something too, and this is for the people at home, just coming from a former teacher. We spend the whole year, end of the year, wrapping up what we've done, reviewing what we've done, and then preparing for what we need to do better next year as educators. And then something like this happens, which was not prepared for. I mean, no one was sitting there thinking, hey, what happens in case we have a huge outbreak of a virus where we can't go anywhere? And so the adjustments are being made and the planning is being done. And so all I can do is ask for the public to be a little bit patient with your teachers. Teachers, be patient with your administrators, and then all that coming back and being vice versa. Our educators and administrators being patient with the public and realizing that, education is going to continue. Our district's going to do what they can for the people. This is what everybody signed up for, was to make sure that your kids get educated, and that's what they love to do. That's why they're doing what they do. I can't sling enough support to what these teachers have done to this point and what they're going to continue to do to get us through this and make sure that our children are prepared for what next year holds, what next week holds, and then what next month holds, and then what next year holds. So.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Anybody else?
I just want to say this is an unusual time. Obviously, this is an unusual time for us, but our administrators and teachers are going to do whatever it takes to take care of our kids in this district. And I have no doubt about that. It's an unusual time, but I have no doubt that the teachers and the administrators are going to make sure that your child is ready for next year. And it may look a little different than it has in the past, but they will be ready.
Anyone else? We'll come into a close, but I'd like to say, Dr. Gocher and your team, how thankful we are for you. I guess the word I use is uncharted waters, and I think Mr. Carter, Jeff, had a great, nobody signed up for this, and I think you are doing an amazing job, and I thank you for putting this together. I hope it was hopeful for our patrons. That was our desire, was to try to answer questions the best way we know how. If we don't have the answer, we'll get it to you, and if we don't know the answer, we want to tell you that too. But what we can commit is that by Monday, Miss Rachel will get with Dr. Gocher. I know Dr. Gocher and Dr. Brackett, they need a spring break, and theirs starts tonight when we get done. And want to honor their time because I know they've been busy. It's been a 7-day-a-week job. And so Monday, they'll compile these questions and put them on the school district's Facebook page and website. Also, I want to thank all of our teachers on behalf of the board. And our classified staff, our bus drivers that have drove buses, janitors, everything that have stood in the gap for our kids to get them food, to keep our buildings clean, to keep them sanitized. On behalf of the board and Dr. Gocher and administration, we can't thank you enough. I'm proud to be a Russellville Cyclone, and in times like this, I'm even more proud to be a Russellville cyclone, because I've seen Jeremy Keister on the news helping nurses and doctors a place to stay, and our healthcare providers were very appreciative for everything that y'all have done, and I've seen our community band together, and I want to thank the board. I want to thank Dr. Gocher and Dr. Brackett for their leadership, and again, thank y'all for doing this for us and answering these questions. Mr. Harpino, thank you for coming, and Coach Holt, thank you and your team for what y'all do for security, and it's a big job. Again, before we close, and voice of the Cyclones, Mr. Mickey Duval, we can't thank you enough for coming tonight and helping us out and getting this out. We appreciate you. We'll get you a Whataburger down the line. And also, Miss Rachel, thank you for coming tonight.
Yes.
But does any board members have anything else? Mr. Golden?
I didn't hear you say elementary school nurses there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, good, yes.
Hey, and to the parents, just relax. Enjoy time with the kids. Go through your packets. If there's something you don't know, write it down and come back to it later. Enjoy those elementary kids and enjoy spring break.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank our sound man, Jason, in the back. He's kind of hidden back there. Thank you, Jason, for putting this together and always keeping us sounding good. Thank you, buddy.
So again, anybody have anything else? If not, thank you all again for coming. Means a lot to Dr. Gocher, Dr. Brackett, and of course us, and I appreciate the board. And we will be adjourned.